What's happening? Happy hump day to everybody. Thanks for joining me as always. Before you head out for your Thanksgiving tomorrow, wanted to hit up this podcast for you. That's right. We'll talk some Patriots on this Wednesday. This is a recorded podcast. I want to let you know my schedule is a little bit crazy over the next few days. So I am recording this podcast, which means do not send your super chats. It's a weird work schedule this week. So no super chats, getting ready to go into 98.5 later tonight. But let's get to it. I want to start with, before I get to Jerod Mayo and how responsible he is and how much blame he should get for this 3-9 record right now, I want to talk about Vederian Lowe. I have been more patient and fair than others regarding Lowe and some of the pieces on the offensive line. And I've got to admit, I was a little too emotional on Sunday watching all of the penalties. And I was very harsh, very critical of Vederian Lowe on Sunday. I was very critical of him on Monday. Now, the pre-snap penalties are still inexcusable. You're lacking focus. He said as much in the locker room yesterday to the media. Again, inexcusable. He's got to clean that stuff up. Operationally, he has to be better. From a procedure standpoint, he's got to be better. But I do want to be fair. A couple days removed from watching that hideous football on Sunday, I do want to be fair to Vederian Lowe. Greg Bedard, Evan Lazar, two guys that I appreciate and respect a lot when they talk about offensive line play, especially so. They both wrote that Vederian Lowe blocked well against Miami. Lazar wrote that Lowe had 3 legitimate false starts. Again, no excuse for those pre-snap penalties. Has to be better there. He had one where Calais Campbell jumped offside, but the teammates of Lowe didn't help him out. They didn't move. So by the time Lowe reacted to Campbell being offsides, he was back onsides, and he gets the penalty. You know, Michael Jordan, who's now gone, Ben Brown, Michael Wenu, those guys could have helped Vederian Lowe by reacting to Campbell and getting the offside call on the defense. Lazar writes, overall, the penalties cannot happen, but the 2 quarterback pressures Lowe allowed weren't all that bad. Just a tough day at the office from a procedural standpoint. So again, the blocking was pretty good from Lowe. Greg Bedard wrote that Lowe actually played well outside of the penalties. So fix the pre-snap penalties. Have more focus. Those things can be easily corrected. And it's up to Vederian Lowe to do that. But as far as how he blocked, he wasn't bad on Sunday. So I want to be fair to him. Got too emotional on Sunday. I think I'm going to stop tweeting about offensive linemen in real time on Sunday, because you really have to look at the nuance and the detail and snap to snap, because every mistake, even if it's 1 or 2, if a guy gives up a sack, the immediate reaction is, oh my God, the guy gave up a sack. He stinks again. You have to look at the big picture. And a lot of times I do look at the big picture, even when I'm watching a game. But with the offensive line, I think it's the last couple of years, I get triggered more easy when it comes to dealing with the offensive line. So I think I'm just going to step away from Twitter in regards to the offensive line on game days. I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch the games, and I'm going to read guys like Lazar and Bedard and Taylor Kyles and some others that know more about offensive line play than I do. Speaking of the O-line against the Dolphins, they weren't great when it came to pass protection, but they weren't terrible. They were 13th. They had the 13th highest pressure rate given up this past week. They were about 37% according to Next Gen Stats. So right about the middle of the pack when it comes to pressure given up. And when you think about it, Trey Jacobs himself gave up like 7, 8, 9 pressures against the Dolphins. So Jacobs was the biggest problem. So you really have to be, again, fair and look at it and say, okay, obviously nobody's happy with the offensive line. The composite pass protection rankings from Ben Baldwin, the computer cowboy, the Patriots are by far the worst offensive line in football. I'm not trying to sugarcoat this. I'm just saying, as far as Vederian Lowe specifically, I probably was a little too harsh on him on Sunday. And the offensive line as a whole, especially since Drake May has come in, they've been better as far as giving up pressure. And yes, some of that is Drake May. I still hope that Vederian Lowe can be a swing tackle for this team. I would still plan on drafting or signing a bona fide left tackle. I would not walk into 2025 at this point saying that Vidarian Lowe is my answer at one of the most crucial positions on the football field. But I'm not going to give up hope. I don't want to overreact. I think he could be a swing tackle candidate moving forward with the way he's played this year. Speaking of the offensive line, the Patriots yesterday released Michael Jordan. They claimed guard Lester Cotton from Miami. Not a huge surprise that Jordan is not going to be starting for the Patriots again. I am surprised that they cut him, that they released him. He played well at the beginning. Then he started to kind of trail off. And the last few weeks, he's been bad. He's just not been good enough. So I'm not surprised. I would not have been surprised by a demotion. I am surprised that he was cut. If you wonder about Lester Cotton, again, from the Dolphins, he had 8 starts last year for Miami, and Jordan just wasn't good enough. So now you look at some of the options, right? Is Cotton the answer at left guard this week? Does Cole Strange come back? He's practicing for a second straight week. He's out there again today. Not many limitations from what we know. Does Layden Robinson get a shot sliding to left guard? Does Sidy Sow get a shot at left guard? Do they try Sidy Sow at right tackle because of Jacobs having such a tough game last week? As far as Caden Wallace, Jerod Mayo says he's close. I'm not going to think about Caden Wallace until he's actually out there on the field. So we'll see. I think it comes down to Cotton, Strange, and Robinson, most likely for that left guard spot. And they might entertain the idea of playing Sow at right tackle. All right, let's get to Jerod Mayo and how much of the blame should be on the head coach regarding this 3-9 record. I want to get something out of the way right now. The roster is not good enough. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Elliott Wolf. I gave him a D-. That grade has not changed. We'll see what happens the next 5 games. We'll see if there's some life from the rookie class outside of Drake May over the final month. Nobody is going to debate. Nobody is going to argue if this roster is good or not. We all see what this roster is. We all know that the roster has plenty of holes that they have to fill, okay? We get that. We also understand that injuries have not helped. You were missing Christian Barmore for most of this season until a couple of weeks ago. You lost Jawan Bentley. Kyle Duggar missed 3 weeks. He's been bothered by the ankle. Sione Takitaki has been all over the place when it comes to the injury report. You've dealt with injuries, and there's no doubt that the injuries have not helped. It means that you have less talent, and it also means that you have less leadership on the field. So the roster isn't good, and the injuries have not helped. Also, nobody, and I mean nobody, should expect Mayo to beat good to very good teams in his first year as a head coach, specifically with this roster. Reasonable expectations. I did not think this team was going to win 8-9 games. I did not think that Mayo was going to have everything figured out. As I've said, I try to be as reasonable as possible. What I want to see from Mayo is gradual improvement throughout the year. Are there boxes that we can check and say they've gotten better with this, they've gotten better with that? If you can start checking those boxes and you check more boxes by the final week of the season, you feel much better about Mayo. But as you go through the year and you lose games, which was predictable, but you're losing games and you're not checking boxes for the head coach, that's when we have a problem. So we have to keep this reasonable. I'm not going to sit here and kill Mayo early in the year for, not beating San Francisco in San Francisco. If they lose to the Bills twice late in the year, I'm not going to lose my mind and say, oh my God, they lost to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are one of the best teams in the AFC. They're one of the best teams in football. If they lose at Arizona, again, that to me is more than acceptable. Arizona is a good football team. They're fighting to win the NFC West. You have to travel out to the West Coast. So it's all about context, nuance, and being reasonable. Right now, the Patriots are 3-9. And they are, per DVOA, the worst team in football. They are ranked 32nd in DVOA. It's the first time that the Patriots have been ranked dead last in DVOA since week 7 of 1993. Some of you probably not even born. The last time this team was as bad as it is right now, according to DVOA. And here's what is even tougher to take when you consider 32nd in DVOA. The Patriots, through this point of the year, their first 12 games, the first 12 weeks of the season, they faced the 31st schedule, the second easiest schedule. They've actually had the second easiest schedule in football, according to DVOA, and they are still dead last in DVOA. So they're not just a bad football team. They've been a bad football team against the second easiest schedule in the NFL. Not great, Bob. Not great. That's what we've got. So the bad losses, we know the bad losses. The Jets, week 3, bad loss. The Jaguars in London was a bad loss. And I mean, as far as bad losses, you've had more bad losses than that in closer games, but more of like the humiliating fashion of a loss, right? Like Jets week 3, that was humiliating. Aaron Rodgers ripped you apart. You were dominated. The game in London against the Jags, you got out to that good first step. You got that lead. Looked like you were on your way to having a pretty damn good performance, and then everything went off a cliff, and you got blown out. And then, of course, I would put last week when you get down 31-0 against a team that you're facing for the second time in a season and is a division rival who you should have more information on than anyone else in the league, and you start off 31-0. Those are the humiliating losses. If you want to lump San Francisco in, you can lump San Francisco in, but I was not very surprised by the end of that. But if you want to throw the Niners in, you can throw the Niners in. So how do you evaluate Jerod Mayo? How much blame should he get? Before I get to that, don't forget to help us out here with the channel here on YouTube. You can click that thumbs up, give us a like, throw a comment in, let us know how you feel. How much responsibility do you think Jerod Mayo should have with this 3-9 start to the 24 season? How much blame do you put on Mayo? Throw a comment in. Likes and comments, they help us build this base, and that's how we get more viewers and listeners, by doing those two things, liking and commenting. Also, you could subscribe and click that notify bell. We are looking at 5,500 subscribers by the new year. It's a lofty goal. Can we get there? I'm not so sure, but we're going to try to get to Spotify, Apple Pods, friends, rate and review. I thank every single one of you. So how do you evaluate Jerod Mayo? With the fact that this roster isn't good, with the injuries they've dealt with, how do you evaluate him, given reasonable expectations? I will use one term: control the controllables. I'm not going to blame Jerod Mayo for this roster, even though he's had his hand in it for sure. I'm not going to blame him for the roster. And I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, yes, the talent issue, the injury issues, they are real. But the way I look at Mayo is I look at him individually. What are the things that he can control that he's doing a good job with? Where has he improved? Control the controllables. You can only do what you can do. So here are some controllables for a head coach, and there's a lot of them to me. I'm going to run through this list. You might even have more. Team discipline. Team discipline is a head coach controllable. That doesn't have anything to do with talent. Team discipline. Do you believe that Jerod Mayo has improved when it comes to this team's discipline? I say no. Make sure guys are organized when they're on the field. I would say that's been very inconsistent, especially defensively. The last 2 weeks defensively, dudes look like they have no idea what they're supposed to do. That's a head coaching and coaching issue. This organization. Has this been a team that has consistently corrected their mistakes? Has the coaching staff corrected some of the mistakes? Has Jerod Mayo corrected some of the mistakes he's made early in the season, now later in the season? I would say no. We see the same kind of issues with him. Does the team look prepared? Overall, would you say that the team goes into games week in and week out fundamentally prepared for what they're going to go against? I would say no. I don't see that. Not always. Sometimes they do. But it's been very inconsistent. Very inconsistent. Clock management. I have not seen enough consistent improvement managing the clock from Jerod Mayo. Timeout usage. Inconsistent. Fourth and go decisions. Not good. Last week in Miami, he went for a couple of fourth downs, but that was out of necessity. He had no choice because they were getting blown out and you had only so many possessions left. But when we talk about early in the game, you can even go back to Miami. I think they had like a 4th and 1 or something from their own 39, and they decided to punt the football. Analytically, people would tell you that you should go for that. The Ravens on Monday Night Football, they had the football like inside their own 20 or something crazy early in that game on 4th down, and they went for it and got it. Now, I'm not telling you I would have been pushing for them to go in that situation. I'm just telling you when it comes to 4th and go situations with a team that is losing more than it's winning, with a team that certainly needs a spark, needs some life, needs some confidence, needs some momentum, Mayo has been entirely too conservative. So I'd say that part of his coaching has not been good. 2-point conversion decisions, inconsistent. In London, they went for 2, down by 9. The last time against LA, they decided not to go for 2, down by 9. Inconsistent. The operation. When you see the operation of this team from the top to the bottom, right? On the field, the 53-man roster. Do you think that this operation for the Patriots has been, in air quotes, clean? I would say no. When you have 13 penalties against Miami, the operation, my friends, is not clean. That's on the head coach. Again, I'm talking about things that are not a talent problem. I'm talking about decision-making. I'm talking about bigger picture control of the football team. These categories fall under Jerod Mayo. How about as far as disciplinary action? It's been inconsistent. How they handled Ramondre Stevenson to how they handled Kendrick Bourne. We don't even know what was going on with Kendrick Bourne. That never got out. But the Ramondre fumble took him out for like a series, put him back in. Then you said, oh, well, he's not going to start this next game. And he literally did not start for the first like 5 snaps, then was in there. Bourne sat. He was done for the entire week. Now, maybe you say that that's an improvement. And I could buy that. Maybe it's an improvement from the Ramondre Stevenson situation to the Kendrick Bourne disciplinary action. You could say that was an improvement from Jerod Mayo. How about an identity? It is on the football coach. It is on the head coach to shape the identity of his team. And it should form in the first month to month and a half and carry through the rest of the year. Do you believe this team has an identity under Jerod Mayo? I do not. I don't think they have found that identity and been able to, stand by that identity. How about the messaging from the head coach? I'd say it's been not good to uneven. Last week, Mayo takes some accountability for certain things. So we got to coach better. We got to prepare these guys better. And then he's got other comments that, throws the players under the bus. Covington comment that he made just the other day about, well, Covington's, he's calling the right plays. We just have to execute better. As if, coordinating a defense is only play calling. No. You got to make sure guys are in the right spots. You got to be coaching them up. You got to make sure the communication is good. That stuff is helped by the coach and the coaching staff. So, the messaging through the media, I think, has been uneven from Mayo. Those are the controllables. And there are many of the controllables that don't have anything to do with talent or injury that Jerod Mayo has either been not good enough with or has not improved nearly enough. Now, what are the good? Drake May's development. I would say the development of the rookie quarterback is absolutely a check mark for Jerod Mayo and Alex Van Pelt. But Mayo had the call. Mayo had to decide when to play Drake May. In the way that May has played and the way that he has improved, I would be fair to Jerod Mayo and say that was a good call, and that's a check. I also don't think this team has quit on Mayo. They could have rolled over and died on Sunday in Miami. They didn't. They were down 24-zip at halftime. They came out. The defense forced a punt. The offense got the ball moving a little bit, and then penalties bit you in the rear end again. But this team, when you watch them on the field, they don't look like a team of quitters. So I would say that Mayo still has their ear. They have not quit on him yet. Could they end up quitting on him? Of course. But I'm judging it right now on November 27th, and they have not quit on the coach, and that's a check mark for Jerod. But when you look at the ledger of things that the head coach can control, when you look at that ledger, man, oh man, there's a lot more negative than positive for Mayo. And it's really tough. It's really tough to sit down and list 4 or 5 things, maybe even 3 things. It's tough to list 3 things where this team has undeniably improved. And I'm not talking about, again, talent, injuries. I get it. But I want you to do that exercise, and I want you to list them in the comments. Can you come up with 3 aspects of this football team as far as what Mayo has under his control? Can you give me 3 improvements from week 1 as we get ready for week 13 from Jerod Mayo? Can you give me 3 things he has clearly gotten better at? I don't think I can. I honestly don't think I can. And that's an indictment on Mayo. Aside from the roster, aside from Elliott Wolf, things that Mayo can do, that he can get better at. It's an indictment on him. Now, yes, Jerod Mayo could be the next Dan Campbell. He could be. And yes, better talent will absolutely freaking help Mayo. There's no doubt about that. But here's the problem. As much as Mayo could be the next Dan Campbell, and there are like a handful of guys that people bring up all the time to say, well, in their first year, they had a terrible record. Things weren't going well. People were kind of looking at them with the side eye, but then they got better. And, in year 2, year 3, they built a program. But Campbell, let's use Campbell because he is the shiny example of this, where, you were like, 3-13-1 or something in his first season. And then they slowly got better. And now you look at them and they certainly look like the best team in football, if not one of the best teams in football, right? Yes, Jerod Mayo could become Dan Campbell with one scenario. The problem is Jerod Mayo also could be part of the long line of head coaches who were never good. Head coaches that weren't good in their first year and never became good. Never got better at enough. So I will leave open the door for Mayo to be the next Dan Campbell. But for those who say, oh, Dan Campbell, you have to leave open the door that Jerod Mayo could never be good at what he's doing right now. That there will be no improvement. That he never had it. Just because he was a great player during his time, just because he was a good coach, doesn't mean he's going to be a great head coach, and you never know until you're in that spot. So, yeah, I'll leave open the opportunity that Mayo could be the next Dan Campbell, and maybe next year they take a step forward, and then in 2026 they take a big step forward, and we look back at this time and we go, man, oh man, Mayo was He was not good enough, not even close in his rookie head coach year. But man, did he step up. They got better talent. He got better. He improved with his decision making. We can have that conversation sometime down the road. It's possible. But it's also possible that midway through 2025, with better talent, there are still all of these things that I just listed where you look at it and you say, Jerod Mayo still has not gotten better. Even with better talent, he has not gotten better. We have to leave that opportunity on the table as well. That's how this works, because none of us know what's going to happen 6 weeks from now, a year from now. And the next 5 games are huge for Mayo. Do they show improvement over the next 5 games? Over their final 5 games, do you walk into the 2025 offseason saying, yeah, it was really rough through the first 12, but they really started to figure it out. After that Miami game, something clicked. And even if they lose to Arizona and they lost to Buffalo, they were competitive in those games. Something clicked. They figured something out. Are we saying that at the end of the year? Or are we saying, my God, that was awful? Yes, they might have won 3 or 4 games, and I had them winning 5 games, but they weren't competitive. They got blown out in 6 or 7 or 8 of those games. And in the final month and a half, they actually got worse. What's the conversation we're having in January? I don't know. But the next 5 games, I do know, are crucial for Jerod and this operation. Let's go back to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's first season as the Lions head coach, 2021. 6 of the last 9 games that year were decided by 7 points or less. Now, there were a couple blowouts thrown in, but 6 out of the last 9 games were decided by 7 points or less in Dan Campbell's rookie head coach year with Detroit. Now, I know he had a little bit of an interim time there with Miami, but you get it. Detroit in 2021, they finished the season 3-3 over their last 6 games. They hadn't won a game until the final month and a half of the year in 2021. Then they went 3-3. So it gave some people some hope. They could look at it and say, well, yeah, they went like, what was it? 10-1 the first 11 weeks of the season. But then the final 6 games, they went 3-3. And over the last 2 months of the season, the majority of the games were competitive. Really competitive. That's what Mayo needs to make you feel better, right? We need another win or 2 before the year is over. And we need the majority of the next 5 games. We need, 4 of these 5 games to be at least somewhat competitive and make you feel like it's a football game going into the fourth quarter. I think that's very reasonable. Where do I land on Jerod Mayo? I'm not sold yet. But I'm going to give him the next 5 games, and then I'm going to sit back and I'm going to evaluate the entire season. We could see improvement over the next 5 games, and hopefully we do. All right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's jump to Jabrill Peppers with a quick update. Peppers off the commissioner's exemption list. Mayo spoke to the media yesterday. Mark Daniels posted. Mayo said this about Peppers. When Pep is ready to go, hopefully we can get him to the game. Says they'll respect the legal process and let it play out. So let the legal process play out. That to me would seem like they're going to be very cautious and conservative. But their actions have not been cautious or conservative. Peppers was at the facility yesterday. He has practiced the last 2 days. And on top of that, Peppers actually spoke to the media yesterday, which is a pretty significant step. Now, Peppers did not discuss the case, the allegations. He said, from his lawyer's advice, makes sense. They have not gone through the court system yet. You don't want to say something that could be held against you in a court of law. But of course, when you've got Peppers at the facility and he's practicing and he's speaking to the media, the $1 million question is, why is this happening? How much was ownership involved? And Andrew Callahan posted on Mayo regarding the Peppers owners situation. Callahan tweeted out that Mayo deflected when asked if the decision to let Peppers practice and play was run by ownership. Now, Peppers did tell the media yesterday, according to Chris Mason, that he discussed his situation with Patriots ownership. So there's been a conversation between Peppers and ownership about what happened in these allegations. The fact that Peppers is so visible and he's practicing and he's talking to the media, that has to be okayed by Kraft. There's no way on God's green earth that Peppers is at the facility, he's practicing, he's talking to the media in the locker room. There's no way that happens unless Robert Kraft says it can happen. There's no way. So what could have swayed Kraft? What could have swayed the NFL? Because the NFL took him off the exemption list. There was a hearing last Friday, and the attorney for Peppers said something interesting about this video, which I'll get to in a minute. But the NFL took him off the exemption list. Now Kraft allows him to be in the locker room, talking to the media and practicing out there. So it's rather obvious to me that the Patriots and Kraft ownership, they feel like Peppers has a very good case against the alleged victim. They must feel pretty confident that Peppers is innocent of what the alleged victim says he did. And I think it goes all the way back to that video. Charlie McKenna at Mass Live wrote about Peppers again last Friday after the hearing. Attorney Mark Allen Brofsky reiterated last Friday a claim that he made during Peppers' arraignment in October that video evidence shows the crime the Patriots captain is accused of, quote unquote, did not happen. The videos taken on Peppers' phone the night of the incident show the woman did not have any injuries to her face, and they back up Peppers' claim that the woman had refused to leave his Braintree apartment. That's according to Peppers' attorney. And of course, it's Peppers' attorney, so he's trying to get his side out there. We all understand that. In court last Friday, Brofsky claimed the videos support Peppers' account of what took place and show the woman smirking at the camera while lying on Peppers' couch. Brofsky said, quote, "It shows that this crime did not happen," unquote. So, did this video get shown to the NFL? Maybe, if not, probably. Did this video get shown to the Crafts? Maybe, if not, probably. Because the video can show a lot. The video should confirm the alleged victim's story, right? Are there noticeable marks on her? Does she look like she's afraid for her life? Does she look like she's, just scared of Peppers? Right? So you should have visual evidence of not only physical, but also mental abuse on this video that Peppers is taking. Also, the video should show if the alleged victim was drunk, and this is a part of the story. Because the alleged victim says Peppers pretty much threw her down the stairs. Peppers says, "I didn't throw her down the stairs. She was drunk. She fell drunkenly down the stairs." So does this video show the alleged victim drunk? Is she slurring her words? Are her eyes glossy? Is she not making much sense? Because if she's drunk, if she looks like she's ham-boned, then obviously that makes Peppers' side of the story look better. Video should tell the court who was the aggressor, right? Is anyone trying to diffuse the situation? What language is being used? What's the tone? What's the volume? If Peppers is taking this video and saying, "Just leave my house," and she's screaming and being belligerent and aggressive, that helps Peppers. If Peppers is filming this and he's screaming at her and she looks scared, and I wouldn't imagine Peppers would show that with his cell phone. Why would you make yourself look terrible? Why would you hand over incriminating evidence? But we have to leave the option open. Weird things happen. If there's something on that video that makes Peppers look like the aggressor and gives more credence to the alleged victim's story, it's bad for Peppers. Does the video include the allegations? Like, what is said on the video? Does the alleged victim mention how Peppers threw her down the stairs? Does she talk about anything that he did to her physically, right? I think she said he choked her. Does she say that on camera? I mean, you have to put yourself in the sneakers or shoes of the alleged victim. If somebody just threw you down the stairs and they're filming you on the phone, would you not say, hey, look, you just threw me down the freaking stairs, bleep you? Would you be trying to get out of the house? If you're lying on the couch and smirking, again, that's the attorney's side. We don't know the truth. I have not seen this video with my eyes. If she's lying on the couch smirking and not showing any marks and doesn't look like she's at all conflicted about being in the house, even though what allegedly happened, that does not make her story look good. Now, of course, is there other video? Was video deleted? Are there text messages? You can go back and you can find these things on the phone. And I'm sure that Peppers' attorney understands that you can go back and find some of this deleted stuff on the phone. But you just, the fact that he's at the facility, he's practicing and he's speaking to the media, it screams to me that the NFL and the Patriots, they have knowledge of what happened. They have some of the evidence presented to them. They spoke to Peppers, and they feel really good about him being exonerated. Because if Peppers is not exonerated, if there's more evidence that they don't know about and it comes out, if the video is not what the attorney says, if Peppers is not exonerated, this is going to be awful for the Patriots. It's going to be awful for Mayo, but it's especially going to be awful for Kraft. With the things that Kraft has said on the record about domestic violence and how he's going to handle his program and what the franchise stands for, if they get duped, so to speak, and Peppers is not exonerated, that is going to be a gigantic stain on Robert Kraft and the Patriots and how they handled this situation. I'm surprised he's already back because it has not gone through the court system yet. His next court case is in late January or court appearance. So I am surprised that he's already back. But I think that should tell us that the Patriots, for whatever reason, are very, very confident that the alleged victim story, it doesn't fly. Doesn't work. All right. I'm on 98.5 tonight. I'm at 98.5 on Friday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. with Alex Barth. That should be a really fun show Friday morning. Enjoy your turkey day. Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. The plan right now is to record the Friday podcast, the preview of the Colts and Patriots. Going to try to record that because on Black Friday afternoon, evening, night, my plan is to go out and hang with the missus. So thank you for enjoying this podcast. If you did enjoy it, thank you for spending time with us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My friends at Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. We'll talk to you on Friday. Appreciate every single one of you.